Right guys, today I'm going to show you how to animate an Uber Eats commercial inside After Effects. I'll break down the full process for the shape morphing, bounce, the selector ball, at the end the sound design as well. Rounded rectangle tool, the scale 35, size 2400, the roundness 600, fill color, this exact color code CC light sweep, change the direction value to -18, width to 300, edge intensity to 40, edge thickness to 6.3. Duplicate the effect, direction 74, width 300, edge intensity 20, edge thickness 6.3. Press LL, press command, scrub through it, get all the markers on points where beat happens. On the icon, go into the properties, unlink the size, keyframe it to flex plugin and apply the bounce on the size property. This is on its final stage and then this bounce starts. So everything after this, where it overshoots slightly and then goes back in. This is exactly why it's so important to make the markers before, then you know exactly where to place it. I made the shape morphing for the first stages, for the second, and for the rest of it. Go to the fill color, keyframe it before the second scene, make it black, and then when it morphs back in again, it goes into original color. To keep everything organized, we need to add a lot of null objects to animate it properly. Go to the sync plugin and select the icon, press the null button 8 times. Rename it properly. The first one has to be the text, the last one is the scale. These in between are all for the icon. The highest null object, change the scale to 400. Text layer, font is the Uber move text in bold. Drag it down, parent it to the text null object. I added all the text over the top, null object for the scale, keyframe at 400. Go to the drop and change it to 100. Add the snap in easing. And then at the ending where it morphs to a search bar, make a keyframe at 100. Scale it down to 20. Offset it by 1 keyframe length. Select icon 6 null object and we'll make a keyframe for the scale at 60. Go 1 keyframe forward, change it to 50, the bounce onto it. For the parenting logic to work properly, the text layers parented to the text null object and the icon and the text top null object are parented to the icon 1. Icon 5, keyframe the position and scale, go forward on the marker, then we move it down to the bottom left and scale it to 33. Keep the same keyframes until here, then again make a new keyframe. On the drop again, the exact marker point, put it to the top right and change the scale to 25%. And on the drop itself, go to 47 again to the original values and position 0 so it's in the middle again. Select all the keyframes and apply the flex bounce to it. Icon 1, keyframe the rotation, and I have 3 different rotations. So the first one for the first text spin, then the second one and the third one, to make sure that they all add up to 360 degrees. So first rotation goes to 147, the smooth in easing, and you want to make sure that the highest point in the easing tab is exactly on the marker. Select icon 2, keyframe the rotation again, goes to 122. So the smiley is positioned at the top right. Super smooth easing, drag the handles so again it matches up perfectly with the marker. Now icon 3, we're gonna keep it empty for now because I will animate a bounce down when the smiley blinks. Icon 4, keyframe rotation, goes to 91. Then you select it at the beginning and change it to 1. So it finishes the 360 degree rotation and then also adds a full 1 again. Make sure the easing lines are perfectly with the marker. Now we got the perfect shape morphing locked in. Now we focus on animating the text and placing it all correctly. The first lyrics, press shift left click on slice to separate the letters. Now you want to make sure that the anchor point is in the middle, the bounding box of the text layer. Added a fastbox blur and keyframe the scale. Click on this keychain, unlink it, so you can independently change the X and Y scale separately on both of them. Fastbox blur effect goes from 0 to 17 and the scale goes from 103 to 0. So both of them get flattened. Take the first letter keyframes, stagger it left to the next lyrics, split it per letters. Put the anchor point in the middle of the bounding boxes again on the O, change the last keyframe to 0, so it's flattened. A few frames forward, then put the second value of the scale to 83.2. Then select the scale animation, paste it onto the other 2 letters. Now press P forward position, separate the dimensions, keyframe the Y position, go forward into the next scene when it spins right and change it to -415. Copy this, make sure to paste it onto the other letters as well, so we're consistent. And select all the keyframes and add the super smooth easing. Also make sure to take the G and the T and put them inside. Then select all the text layers that will go out of bounds and as a track mat, select the icon. Goes out, it's not visible anymore, the text. Stagger everything. The T shifted 3 milliseconds forward and the ones below 3 milliseconds backwards. GOT comes from left to right, gets staggered, looks very clean. then they all fly out staggeringly as well. I repeated the same process again, split them all up per letters, and I animated it all a little bit differently. I made a keyframe at the beginning for the scale, again delinked the keychain, and this time I keyframed the first value. So now it doesn't pop up in the middle, it goes sideways up. The rotation is first at -85 and then to -100 to its final position. Added bounce to all of them, pops up sideways and swings in, matches with the rotation of the icon. I staggered each of the different letters 3 milliseconds to the right. Added a smiley here, I kept it a little bit more simple. Just took the smiley text layer, duplicated it, and then selected this one letter, changed it to fully black, went into the new letter, only have the one icon positioned it exactly where it should be, keyframed the scale of it and the blur radius, squeezes it together, and the scale goes up to 17. And then it goes back out again. Go into the smiley and make a keyframe on the scale, and I just scale it up simply from 0 to 100, and it goes to 0 again. It always has to match the bounce. So it has to get smaller before it transforms and moves into the next position. Now there's still one more thing I left out. It's the icon 3 null object. Keyframed the Y position, lined it up perfectly with the smiley. So it's in its normal state when the twitching starts. And on the highest point where it's completely closed, the eye, it goes down 300. Bounces, because I applied the bounce to the Y position. On the final position where the next marker is, it's on 0 again. So by that point, it's in the original position. So now when you did everything properly, you get the same exact animation. Duplicated the text from before. Uber move text medium for the Uber. The eats is Uber move text bold. Duplicate the icon shape layer. Enable stroke, the green of the fill, and remove all the keyframes for the shape morphing so it doesn't move at all. And change the stroke width to 200. And then keyframe the scale from 0, opacity at 100. Progressively goes to 180 the scale, the opacity to 0. Easing, snap in. Duplicate it and stagger it 2 milliseconds backwards. Before we transition to the next scene, I added a Minecraft style CC light sweep effect without the effect itself. Make a shape layer. The width of it is 80 pixels and the height is 1000 pixels. Change it to 30. Then keyframe the X position on the left side of the icon and gets to the right side. Select the track matte of the shape layer and select the icon as the track matte. Add a fastbox blur, change the blur radius to 10. Then a mosaic effect, 50 by 50. Now that the whole animation is ready, go to the top, select the Eclipse tool, press Shift, left click, completely black, size to 75. Now guys, get ready. I'm gonna show you the source on how to do this. So normally you can see the keyframes. This is the keyframes without the special source. Propels it one side to the left, then goes up, forwards, and then moves it down. It's linear. So to fix this, select all the keyframes, press right click, then keyframe interpolation, change the special interpolation to Bezier. Press OK, and now you will see all have the handles and can make it completely smooth. So just make sure to position everything. It flies in, goes exactly where you want it, then flies up, moves it up again. You really have to line up completely, and it's very important to have the keyframes very near to each other, because you cannot add easing onto it, you cannot add bounce onto it, it will break the whole thing. And then it moves it to the side again to its final position, just comes, and then at the end I also keyframe the opacity so it goes from 100 to 0, so it's a smooth scaling to the search bar in sync. And enable motion blur. Everything looks much cleaner already, but you can already see the ball doesn't really have motion blur. To fix this, add the echo effect. The echo time in seconds has to be minus 0.005. The numbers of echoes 6, starting intensity 1, decay 0.63, and the echo operator composite in front. It looks much more buttery smooth. At the end, for the icon to transition into the next scene, I added a fastbox blur and keyframed it from 0 at the end to 22. Also the size I changed from the 2400 to 6886 and 4590. Match the next scene, so it's seamless. It just goes sideways and then it extends into the next scene where the Uber search bar comes. So for this I created a shape layer, went into the size, unlinked it, and it's 285. For the width, height 175, roundness is 100, it's completely white. And you also want to add a drop shadow that's completely black, opacity 25, direction 180, and distance 5 and softness 50. I basically recreated from the Uber UI on the app itself, the search bar. The filter and search result icon, and made a shape layer separator. Keyframe the X position, make it all reveal at the shape morphing at the box on the bottom. Make it all expand to its final position. So it's all a clean transition. The icon falls back into the search bar itself. And for the text, I just wrote out what are you craving, then went to slice, sliced it per letter, and did my technique as always. To use this color, this also from the Uber UI and the text itself. And then keyframed the X position. So they all fly in from the right side and get stacked in and with a blur in. Basically apply this to all letters, stagger them sideways. It's revealed in over time. Just make sure it's revealed before the next part when it goes to the next marker. And here I added a shape layer circle and keyframed the scale and opacity. So at the beginning it's at 0 and the scale is at 300, so it takes in the full screen. And then over time it gets smaller and lines up exactly with the ball, which I showed you, that also falls into the middle. And make sure to parent everything to a box at the top, which is keyframed at the beginning at 100, then it goes down at 80. So everything goes into the middle and then it goes to 100 again with bounce applied, and then it bounces out. And then after it's bounced back, duplicated the text, the final message, what it's looking for. And for this one, I added a fill effect, added the Uber green again, and then it fades back into the gray one. Also went into the settings, press UU on the text layer, press Animate, add opacity to 0, and then open the animator, keyframe the range selector. It's basically how Animation Composer does it, but for free. And you keyframe it at 0, and then at 100 reveals the text over time. Duplicated the shape layer, changed up the sizes a bit. So it's 2119 and 400 for the height, and the roundness is 600. Changed the opacity in the beginning to 3 and the scale to 42.8, and it gets revealed at the drop, scales up to 95.6 and the opacity at 0. So it's a very faint pulse when it's basically pushed. So it represents again the motion. You always want to do it. The next thing I added is a map, Apple Maps. Screenshot it, import in After Effects, and change the opacity so it scales in the beginning from 0 to 75. Added color balance, changed the saturation on it to -50. Made a shape layer, delinked the size to 100, 150, the width, and the height to 574.8. Add the fastbox blur, change it to 150. Then go to the map and select it as a track matte. The map is only visible where the track matte is. Add a null object where the matte is parented to. And this one gets scaled in from 0 to 130. Added the snap in easing. Now we're gonna transition to the next scene where I have the burger UI. I keyframed all the UI items, separated the dimensions, keyframed the Y position, moved them all completely out of bounds, and add the snap out easing to it. Now go back into the search bar shape layer, and we did some more shape morphing. So you see these are still the original values, and then on the drop itself, it morphs into the background of the UI for the burgers. So the width is 1658 and the height is 594. And always make sure the bounce and the whole mechanics of the movement of the shape morphing gets dictated by which values you input in my Flex plugin, bounce engine, but it also gets dictated by how long the duration in the keyframes is. So for these animations, it's exactly 3 steps, 3 milliseconds, and you always want to make sure that the last keyframe with the final value is on the point where the markers is. Now to create this burger UI, multiple shape layers, it's one shape layer at the back with 543 for the width, for the height 527, roundness is 50, stroke width is 5. This color, then the fill color itself, so that's the backdrop. Then you want to add one more, that's now the frame of the picture, and this is only the stroke, completely black, roundness 50, stroke width 12, 608 for the width, and the height is 383. Then duplicate the same, disable the stroke color, add the fill, because now this, it's basically the background. Select as a matte, then I just added the text. Again, it's Uber move text medium, made it completely black, write out the burger, and I made it left aligned, so it looks like the Uber UI. I did a little bit more freestyle, so I just used the font and then the currency, it's Uber move text regular. Then when at the top, with the ellipse tool circle, added the drop shadow again. It's the same drop shadow from the search bar, plus on it. And for this one, I used the SF Pro, the Apple font, with regular, made it completely black. Used a heart emoji. Disable the fill, enable the stroke, 25 for the stroke, make it stroke over fill. then you only have the outline of the heart. Now again, you want to have very good hygiene with the nulls. So the plus we did with the shape layer, make a null object for that, and then parent everything to a top level null object and make 2 of them. Duplicate it 3 times. So the middle one is sitting at 0, the left one is sitting at minus 490, and the right one at 490. Select all the top level null objects we made, make 1 more null object, then you can control all of them at once, and then even 1 more null object where everything is parented to, and also the ball we're gonna animate soon, because this is again for the transition into the next scene. So now you saw the full null structure, but I still animated the burger setup like this. Completely simple. I went into the first top null object for 1 card, made a keyframe at 0 for the scale and for rotation at 15, then went 3 frames forward, and exactly when the card reveal starts, it's at 100 and rotation at 0, and it bounces back over time. Play around in my flex plugin with the bounce, make it more, make it less, so you get the exact look. I duplicated the same reveal onto the other layers and staggered them. The right side goes to the left side, sideways reveal look. I just went back, copied the ball, and now the reveal starts where the other one stopped. So this one comes from below, opacity comes from 0 to 100, so it's not directly just in the screen, like it's a gradual fade in, comes in from below, flies up. You want to place the positions exactly on the parts where you have the markers anyways, where you have the reveal, and then position them exactly on the plus icon. Now go through, animate them, make it all bounce. Yeah, like it depends on what you animate. This is how I wanted it to select, and then it goes onto the last one, goes up again, because now it transitions to the pin that also flies up. So for that you want to also make a null object at the top, 540, it's basically the middle of the composition on the y-axis, and then at minus 500, so it gets scaled out completely out of the composition, and add the snap out easing. Make sure you have the echo on it, how I showed you previously, and right click, keyframe interpolation, change it to Bezier, and then adjust it so it all fits perfectly. There's even one more small detail I added. When the ball basically touches the plus icon, I went onto the top level null object and keyframe the scale. So this is exactly the null object in the middle. Scale is animated at 80, onto 70 on the point, and then back to 80. And I also went down into the shape layer and keyframed only the fill of the shape layer. Place them exactly on the same timing here, and change the fill color from the brighter white to the CCC. So now it gets selected, and it goes back into the original white position again. Duplicated this onto the other layers, made sure it always lines up with the ball and the markers I set. This top level null object where everything is parented to upward into the next scene. Make a solid, add the fill effect. Change the color to your background color. It's EF. For me, make a keyframe on the color. I'll go a few frames forward and make another keyframe and change the fill color. Hex code is DEDFFF. We already did all the markers, so he is gonna transition into the next scene, transition out to the original color again. Now we're gonna animate the speed lines. Go to the top, select the rectangle tool and draw out a stick. So I'm gonna unlink the size so we can control it manually. The width is at 14 and the height is 302.8. Doesn't even matter. Fill color has to be completely white. Then press P, separate the dimensions. The Y position, 1238. And then exactly 10 frames later, so it's completely out of bounds again. And it's minus 334.6. Duplicate 7 times to add the variation in the size of the height. So for example, one of them is 150. Then I also have some with 642. Make it over the full span of the scene. When all of them end, transition on your solid back to the white. Now create the pin, select the rounded rectangle tool, delink the chain on the size, width to 876.7, height to 171.5, roundness to 99, the fill color FE5DE1. Command D to duplicate it, select the one below, change the fill color to black to 35.7, the width, the rest stays the same. And then press P for the position, take the second value, Y value, and drag it down. Now make a text layer and write arrives now. For the font, select Uber Move Text Medium, make it completely white. Now important that you have my plugin, so you wanna select the shape layer at the bottom, select the align button, move the anchor point to the bottom most middle point. Click here, then go on layers and on the null object, press shift left click to make the null object exactly where the anchor point is. Parent the text, the bubble to this. Split the dimensions, keyframe the Y position, set it to 894, Go all the way to the end, set it to 0, snap in easing, fly upwards. Fly upwards in the beginning so it matches the transition. Duplicate the top level null object and keyframe the Y position and set it to 50. Go a few frames backward, change it to -133. On this marker, it's on 0 again. Add the bounce on top of it, so everything forces up and then it bounces down again. Alright, now the next scene, paste the map in. I just reused it. It has the same opacity applied at 75 and a color balance with -50 to desaturate it. The mask, I changed the blur radius to 50 and also repositioned the map with the position sliders and the rotation, so it lines up exactly so the car drives up. This is the null object for the matte. It starts at 25 as before, and then it scales up to 50 with the smooth in easing. And then this here is the easing with the snap in, and it just goes to 200. So it goes in slowly in the beginning, and then it reveals faster. Ball in the middle, the size 149.5. Changed the stroke width to 22, made the outer stroke white, and the fill color is the same color as the sign. All these assets, by the way, can be found in a project file. Is the Uber car. Place it as well. Below it, select the pen tool, click on the car where it sits in the beginning, and then make a point in the middle of it. Got everything positioned correctly. Make a null object. Make this a 3D layer. This is the null object where we're gonna change the 3D rotation on. Select the ball. It starts at 0, goes to 75. Add the flex bounce onto it. Also the Uber car gets revealed from 0 to 14 and drives up. So I keyframed the Y position at 455 and then it moves to 304. And the line that sits underneath the car, go into the details of the shape layer and then press add the trim paths. Keyframe the end and the start, and it starts at 100%, goes to 0. So you can see the line builds up to the destination over time, and I added the snap and easing here. And then you have to keep in mind that the car also moves. So I also animated the end. Line is not visible behind the car. Go into the 3D null object and change the X rotation to -39, the Y rotation to 9, and the Z rotation to 13.9. Upmost null eject on the drop where it transitions to the car, keyframe on the scale, all the way to the end and make a keyframe at 60. So added easing onto it, go into the editor, make sure it lines up perfectly with the marker and exactly lined up to the beat. Now I'm going to break down the sound design. The first typing sound effect is at 90 stretch factor, exactly from the he to the got. And then another type sound effect, I changed the stretch to 80. The lower it is, the faster it gets played. For the Smiley iMessage sound effect, then I also added a whoosh time stretch of 50 when the ball comes down and it flips the first time. Took the whoosh again, the reverse button, and aligned it with the next scene. So it's instead of being 50, it's -50. Another whoosh, change the stretch factor. This is now 70. Always make something different. Add variety, stack it. Next scene, I added 2 sound effects from Epidemic Sound. Here, whoosh again, time stretch at 50. This sound effect is kind of my special sauce. I used this also in the Airbnb reel that popped off. Money count sound effect. I changed the time stretch to 50. It's like a dopamine hit. And the next scene, the iPhone typing sound effect. Use different parts of the sound, place them so they match with the typing. For this scene transition, a simple whoosh, a notification plop, duplicated it, stacked them all, changed the time stretch to 90, and I made it so they all line up with the reveal of the cards. I reused the notification one, reversed them all, and I changed the time stretch from -70, then -60, and then -50. Next sound effect, this is the sauce, guys. Game win sound effect, everything in the product file, on all these 3 markers. And the time stretch is anticipation. So it's 100, then it's 90, and then 80. Now next, money sound effect. 2 simple whooshes. Button press engine start where the car comes. Keyframe the loudness. Gets more silent over time. Bass and treble. Boosted the bass to 100. Alright guys, you can find the project file on my Patreon in the description, and all my plugins are available on my website eberdefer.com.